Respected members and my dear friends, good morning to all of you present here. I am CA Akash Goda, welcoming you all to the session on navigating the mid-cap jungle. For furtherance of this session, I would request CA Vikas Jain and CA Shwetang Raval to please escort the faculty member, Mr. Prakash Diwan ji, on the dais. I would now request CA Vikas Jain to please present a token of gratitude in form of memento to Mr. Prakash Diwan ji. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of applause. Thank you for your presence, sir. I would now request CA Shwetang Raval to give a brief introduction on sir.
Thank you, Akash. It's my pleasure to introduce our today's faculty for the session, Prakash Diwan, sir. He is a leading finance professional in the country with a wide-ranging experience across various segments of the capital market. He is having experience of more than 30 years and he has worked in various capacities in areas such as an NBFC, investment banking, wealth management, stockbroking, assets management, investment advisory, and so on. His passion lies in identifying small cap business that have the potential to turn into multi-baggers over the years, using his unique style and primary research efforts. Over the years, sir has also developed a keen interest in understanding the impact of behavioral finance with the retail investing field in a way that helps him provide meaningful and actionable inputs to the investors community. Sir is having a wide experience in the finance market and we are happy to have you, sir, over here. And thank you for your patience hearing.
Thank you, Shwetang ji, for keeping the introduction brief because it had to be a long one otherwise. I would like to request sir for taking the session ahead.
You want to get all those people in? I can tell you how to do it. Somebody needs to go and tell them that you're discussing stocks. Anyways, thank you, Akash, Vikas, for welcoming Prakash on the thing. But one of the things that I readily want to acknowledge is that every time I get an invitation to speak in Ahmedabad, it may not be as big a forum as this, but it's always a pleasure because I actually end up going back with a lot of stock investing ideas. And that's the only city where this happens very easily. And I'll explain it to you why it happens, how it happens. Normally people, when they meet you outside, so a lot of people must have gone and chased Vijay Bhai out, कि कुछ तो मिल जाएगा, कुछ एक आध stock. विजय भाई को हम लोग बहुत टाइम से सुन रहे हैं, कभी नया स्टॉक नहीं मिला है. लेकिन कोशिश तो रहती है ना वो. तो a lot of people will keep asking, कोई आइडिया बता दो, ऐसा होगा. Of course, अभी एक और क्वेश्चन भी रहता है कि શું લાગે છે માર્કેટ બહુ વધી ગયું છે, કરેક્ટ થશે? So that is another this thing, and you can't explain that. Nobody has an idea. I mean, I don't at least. So I don't take that question. But a lot of people ask about specific stocks. So when you don't respond to that, finally what happens? ये लोग कंटाळीने તમને કહેશે હું તમને આપું એક બે નામ. કે આ લોકો તો બધા બહુ ટીવી પર જાય છે અને બોલ કરે છે પણ કશું આવડતું છે નહીં. અમારી પાસે વધારે આઈડિયાઝ છે. So the ideation part in Ahmedabad is very rewarding, to be honest. So thank you for being here, and I hopefully will go back with more stock ideas than what I've come with. That's a bargain. And when we were talking about this this session, Jeetu bhai mentioned that this is a session, and Kandilwal Saab ne bhi itna bada matlab aapka the CA Association has set up such a massive office building apparently here. It's probably bigger than the head office. Is that correct? Yeah, see, so Ahmedabad tends to do that, you know, वो head office Delhi में हो लेकिन काम अहमदाबाद में से ही होता है. So, you know, when he mentioned about it, I said, okay, good, national conference we'll do. And we just recently had a very nice session in Vadodara also, just a couple of weeks back, I guess. Yeah, somewhere around the 8th or something. And what was very promising is that today we are, you know, sitting on a day where all the unknowns in the market are past, right? There was a lot of anxiety around the election outcome, and actually it ended up making us even more anxious. Then there was a new government formation, and then there was portfolio allocation. We have never been worried about our own portfolio जितना हम लोग को ministry का portfolio का tension है. You know, for the first time we were so worried कि यार इसको तो नहीं बना देंगे. You know, railway पिलाने तो नहीं जाए. You know, आ तो पेलो ना ले ले. You know, it was such a tense 3 days. That weekend was so tense till 9th, and then we said, oh, okay, things are looking back. And then we forgot all fear. We just had the fear of missing out. There was no other fear. So that's the beauty about our markets. In 24 hours, things change a lot. And in 24 months, we feel nothing has changed. You know, some of the investments that we make continue to be as bad or as dull. So I thought of a topic that probably is more relevant to all of us in the wealth creation journey. And I thought I'll focus on microcaps because that's where my affinity lies, interest lies. We will microcap पर आपने focus करिए. And then I somehow thought to make it slightly easier to take back. See, all of you are very good at numbers, figures. I don't think there could be any better profession to educate investors about numbers on companies and performance of businesses than you guys. All of you are such good, you know, so skilled at it. So I don't think I want to give you more numbers and, you know, add to that burden. Since a lot of you are taking, as the question was posed to Vijay Bhai towards the end, that what do young chartered accountants do to look at this as a business stream? So I thought I'll make it very simple. I love keeping things simple, trying to simplify them. So I've used this whole analogy of a jungle. And when you go through a jungle, what is it that you need to look out for, avoid, you know, all of that. So we'll cover some of those things. A lot of this presentation is more to do with behavioral investing. समझो? Behavioral investing, समझो? What is that? We've heard of growth investing, value investing, momentum investing. What is behavioral investing? Yeah, so please. Absolutely. So basically keep your cognitive biases into consideration. Some of them, if you know, you'll stay away from. Some, if you know others have biases, you'll take advantage of that. So behavioral investing is nothing but using the know-how or understanding of the nuanced human behavior when it comes to investing. If you use that, see, end of the day, the market is, what is the market made up of? There are 3 components to a market. One is the companies, right, which is the biggest. Takes time and effort to understand management. What is the management? It's end of the day people. It's human beings running a business. They are selling it to people who pay them revenue and generate revenue for the business. Who are the people who are buying those services and products? They are also people. They are the customers. Eventually, all that put together makes it attractive for people to buy into the business as stakeholders, as investors. Who are those? They are also people. So all 3 pillars of investing, if you see the market, the supplier and the investor, these are all people. So the more you understand people, the easier it gets. And you'll be surprised, and somewhere in some of my slides I've covered that. You know, if you stop reading about investment books and switch to reading about psychology, human behavior, history, you'll probably make more money. You know, make more money is probably an outcome which I can't commit or guarantee, but you'll at least be better off or better equipped to make money. Because beyond a point, numbers will not give you an edge. They will not help you differentiate. What numbers you see, I see, anybody else will see are just the same. It is how you respond to those numbers that's going to be very important. So please understand, we end up focusing on certain areas which we are already good at, and that's always a tendency. We will always do what we are good at the expense of missing out on doing what we should be good at, right? So this navigating came about with that thought, and I've just made this presentation, completed it last night, so it's quite fresh. Hasn't been used anywhere, and I normally don't use my presentations in too many places, so I'll just go straight into that. You know who this gentleman is? Kaka Orkaj? Huh? Sorry? Charles Darwin. Why, if I just put the picture of the old man, you probably wouldn't have guessed, but that monkey makes a big difference. Imagine a monkey defines Charles Darwin. So he wouldn't have liked it, but just a simple picture, and you can make out it's Darwin. Now, why I chose that is because the markets, I'm comparing the markets with the jungle. In the jungle, what is the basic objective? Survival, absolutely. It is just survival. We have forgotten the fact that the markets are also like that. If you survive, compounding will do its best to create wealth for you. The problem is we don't do anything to survive. We keep doing self-goals, we keep taking undue risk, and our survival itself is at risk. But if you understand this objective, and trust me, it's like a revelation that I had a few years back. I said, I don't need to do anything additional, and that's why I retired very early from a 9 to 6 kind of a job. Of course, it's a different thing that after that I have been busier than earlier. Because I'm in a place, I thought I'll go away from Bombay and Ahmedabad and all these places and settle in a place which is very quiet. But undu થાય છે ત્યાં લોકો વધારે આવે છે. So I live in Goa. So there's not a single weekend in the year that goes without somebody calling saying I am there. When I was reaching here, there were 2 people who called. No, वो तो आप जुलाई में आ रहे हो. But already 2 people were there saying અમે આવી ગયા છે. ક્યાં છો તમે? તો કે હું અમદાવાદ છું. બોલા ઠીક છે કાલે તો અહીંયા છો ને. So it's like I have not had a weekend where I have not had the opportunity to meet somebody who's come from outside. Those kind of meetings didn't happen in Bombay and Ahmedabad and other places. So what I'm trying to say is that when I realized that I wanted to kind of get more time for myself, it is that revelation that helped, that you just have to survive in the market. Don't do stupid things, don't make mistakes, unforced errors as they are called in tennis and Anand Bhai, Jigesh Bhai, you play tennis, so unforced errors is what you keep avoiding, the rest will fall in place. So this is what his theory was, and that's why I keep on saying, as I said earlier, all theories about markets can only be as good as our understanding of human nature. So quite surprising. We are talking about a psychology class rather than a class on market fundamentals, right? The market fundamentals, you would all know very well. And they are static for everybody. They don't change, right? Market fundamentals don't change. The interpretation, as I said, will change. So I want to bring out this very nice philosophical angle. There's a ancient Greek sage. Greece has had a lot of thinkers and philosophers and all that, right? Aristotle and all of these, the Stoics. So one of them was Thales. He belonged to a town called Miletus. So he was asked, he set up that school of natural philosophy and contemporary. He was a contemporary of Aristotle and some of the other big names. He was asked when they were making the Temple of Delphi, saying, it's a big thing. Temple of Delphi is like, if you've been to Greece, it's like our Ayodhya equivalent. Like everybody wants to go and at least have that darshan, and it's grand and it's all of that, historically very, very rich. They said, on the walls we want to put something which people can take back as a message. So we also have a lot of messages on our temples, but unfortunately most of the messages are just to tell people not to throw garbage, not to do this thing. We haven't evolved much on that. But here the temple people said, कि एक message लखवानो छे आपने, something powerful which humanity can take back when they come and visit. So he says, they asked a question, saying, what is the hardest and most important task of mankind? Guess what he responded with? You can Google it out also, but I'll tell you. He says, know thyself. It's the hardest, but the most important thing. So he says, if mankind can figure this out, get to know itself, a man can get to know himself, a woman can get to know herself, there will be so many things which will get clear. This applies to this jungle as well, that we are going to navigate or try to navigate into, okay? And then so you always have this one bonus question, ek or question. So he was asked a question saying, what is the reverse or inverse of this? What is not the hardest and not the most important? And he said, giving advice. And unfortunately, Wall Street, Dalal Street, all streets have created a multi-billion-dollar industry out of giving advice. Whereas that's something which is not of much use, and it comes with, I mean, it's something which is redundant in the light of the fact that if you know yourself, right? So we go to people, hear them out, because they are sitting in some bank or in some broker's office or wherever, have some fancy degrees to back it up. The reason why we need that help to figure out somebody telling us what to do to create wealth for ourselves is because we don't know ourselves. If we spend that kind of effort and time to do that, I don't think we would have. So this is your own Darwinism that will also come to picture. Now, what happens is in a jungle, understanding the bigger things is very easy. The larger constituents of the jungle. You can see them, you can study them. So large caps, typically. Why? Because they're all over the place. You Google out a large cap, you will have so much of information that you can spend the whole day trying to figure out HUL, what is happening. There'll be enough charts and projections, forecasts, everything. But you go below the top 500 companies, and suddenly there is nothing. That's why, you know why companies which are small, microcaps don't have coverage? Not because nobody is interested. There's a world that's interested. There's a whole segment of people that's interested. Why do you think microcaps विषय बहु research केम नहीं होता कि available information public domain में केम नहीं होती? Why is it so? Any guesses? Not liquid, okay, but it's chicken and egg. Information હોય તો liquid થઈ જશે. Liquid નથી એટલે information નથી એ કહેવામાં આવ્યું તમે. But no, there's another reason, fundamental difference. Those are all symptoms, sir. That's not the cause. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. You'll have to probably be a bit louder. Okay, so one of the simplest reason is it's commercial. Most small cap companies do not get invested into by institutions. And the only people who pay for research is actually institutions. Have you seen any of us buying research? I mean, I know some of us must have done that daring bit, but અમદાવાદમાં તો ના જ થાય. અને એક જણે લીધી હોય તો 5-10 જરૂર ના પડે લેવાની. We call it sharing. Netflix માં જે થયું હતું. Netflix had to revise their business model in India. આવું કશે નહોતું થયું. Worldwide they have not faced this issue, by the way. જે આપણે ત્યાં બહુ sharing, મિલજુલ કે comes up કરતે હશે. So research is also miljul ke. If somebody subscribes, it's all over the place. So usually people don't even sell. So SEBI is also struggling to figure out how to help research analysts make a business model out of it. RIA they could not do, so they've started making changes in that. Just read that announcement today. Research analysts, most of the research analysts who are registered, who practice, how do they make money? Any of you is a RA, licensed RA? No, apart from the, okay, just about 4 people in this hall. So you can imagine it's so difficult to practice as an RA, because when you go to a client to sell your research, it starts with saying trial, free trial. Okay. The free trial concept is amazing. So till the ideas that have been shared are doing well, the free trial is on. The moment something doesn't work, say, na, maja nathi aati ama, because it stopped working. So then the free trial is over and you don't want to subscribe. But mostly what happens is research gets paid as soft dollar services by clients who buy and sell through brokers. It's called soft dollar services because you don't pay specially for it, but there is a implicit cost in the brokerage that you pay. Most institutions in India, now institutions have started looking at beyond 500 also, but by and large, it's very limited. So nobody pays for brokerage of companies if you research under 500. Now, how many companies do we have listed in India? Active, about 4,000, right? Imagine we are actually saying less than 10% is the one that gets paid for research. The rest is free for all. There's no research. Jisko jo karna hai. So that's the reason why there's so much of abuse of that situation, that anybody who goes and visits a company, puts up pictures on social media and starts claiming that they know so much about this business. And if you actually ask them, what did they do in that company visit? They've just taken pictures, largely, So, but really nothing much. So, small cap companies, micro cap companies, it's also very difficult to reach these companies. Like, very easy nathi hotu. You cannot call a promoter and say, "Kale mu aau chu." Tame chho na. Evu nathi chaltu. As an individual investor, nobody will. Amne ko ubo mein nahi rakhe. So we find it to be extremely difficult to reach investors. We keep figuring out what connection to find and how to do this thing and write to them regularly and all. The point I'm trying to make is that large companies are very easy to figure out. It's the small companies that you need to kind of, look at if you really want to make money. And that is a challenge. So we'll talk about what's this thing, why are they different? So all the symptoms that you mentioned, let's look at that. The biggest problem in understanding small caps or micro caps is there's a very big absence of precedent. There is nothing like, what did this company do in so-and-so situation? They were so small, they probably were not even listed. So what do you do? So I have been asking companies about what did they do in the pandemic. And the response is fabulous. You actually get to know, the official response is of course very good, saying, no, we were very resilient, our balance sheet could withstand all this. But the explanation માટે સારું છે, પણ કે સાહેબ ટેન્શન થયું તો કે નહીં પેન્ડેમિકમાં? તો કે હા, બહુ ટેન્શન હતું. એકવાર તો એવું લાગ્યું કે આ બિઝનેસ હવે બંધ થઈ જશે. So what did change? What did they do to change that? And that is a very, very powerful explanation for what the company will do in the next round of stress. It could come from anywhere. It doesn't need to be another pandemic. It could come from, any election outcome or any war or any of these, what we call black swan events. So transparency levels, somebody mentioned, transparency levels are not so great. Now, how do you overcome transparency? How do you navigate this big gap? Now, what do you mean by transparency? Do you, as chartered accountants, do you need more tools to figure out what a balance sheet hides or reveals? Or do you need that? I mean, Jitubhai and I have gone to Calcutta, and I was telling people in Calcutta, saying the most creative balance sheets used to come from there. Most of the people who have invested in companies, large investors who have invested from Calcutta, have also been part of a lot of Ponzi schemes, or companies which have actually gone down. But I say you shouldn't be the last people to get caught in that, because you know exactly what a balance sheet can hide, can reveal, not reveal, whatever. So so that's one of the things that as chartered accountants, I think the transparency, of course, there can be an issue if the company doesn't disclose enough. I understand that. If the disclosure itself is, but then the disclosure is so standardized, I don't see a company trying to circumvent that and say, oh, I am from Ahmedabad, I will not disclose too much. Or I will only disclose it to people in Ahmedabad. It doesn't work like that. So transparency is something which we have made a big issue out of, but if you sift through data, you'll get a lot of this thing. Shorter history. Somebody said, their companies don't have a very long history, so that. Rapidly evolving. They are so prone to sudden changes. 20 years back, 24 years back to be precise, we had the internet boom. There were so many companies, which we know in India, which became .com, right? They were doing things which were way, way ahead from dot and com and everything, but they were .com suddenly, and they got invested. So there is there is an example called a company called Manna Tech. Have you heard of this company? MANNATECH. Manna Tech. Anybody? So it was the best performing company in the internet boom in the US markets. That's why I'm just taking the name. It became mannatech.com. And the stock was like a rocket. You know what that company did? Business. They used to make laxatives. Laxatives, what Isabgol or, all of those. So laxatives, I don't know what tech is there in laxatives or what .com is there. But the stock did very well the moment they put this thing. So then we had different things that came. Everybody wanted to become a solar, EV, renewable, this thing. So there was a guy who actually he started, I don't want to name these companies because they're very popular. Some of these companies started off by doing things which were very normal engineering companies. And then suddenly they said, yaar, apne EV ma kai karvu જોઈએ. So કે શું કરવું જોઈએ? કશું કંઈ બી કરો યાર, બેટરી બનાવો, બેટરી પેક કરો, કશું કરવું જોઈએ એમ. They say, lao, battery લઈને આવો. So we started taking old batteries and trying to do R&D. So we are investing into EV technology for battery storage systems. That's very good. Since 3 years, they are still doing that. But the stock PE multiple has gone from 6 to 36. Numbers not yet coming, but apeksha che, because EV, and then the latest is what? AI. Anything that has AI, so that is going to come and hit you so hard, you'll not even know what intelligence is. Forget artificial, So, and most of it is artificial, right? So that's the rapid change that keeps happening. Then there is a very high level of vulnerability. What I mean by vulnerability in this case is that these companies can actually lose so much of market share if they switch badly in terms of bad timing or with a bad geography, and their balance sheets are not so big usually to be able to restore this. So the vulnerability factor is something which you need to work so hard on. Again, as I said, remember what? Survival. If you're investing in a company that is finding difficult to survive in some scenarios, think of those scenarios. Unless you think of those scenarios, they won't come to your mind in terms of, when it happens. So please understand, and these are simple things. So you keep sitting, wondering what to do about a company. You've seen the numbers, everything looks good. Now what? But you think, what can go wrong with this company? If it does, how much damage does it, able to withstand? So that's what you do. There's very low level of institutionalization, and there's more intuitive understanding than empirical. So what do you mean by this? Can you understand what I'm saying here? More intuitive. There are over years of experience of navigating through this jungle, you will start getting a sense of, when people who are used to going into the jungle, they have this thing, they'll hear a call and they can make out, oh, this is a, so-and-so bird calling. If they see monkeys and peacocks making these calls and jumping, they know there's a tiger or a leopard who will be around, right? So that comes from intuitive, this thing, rather than empirical. They've not seen, there's no sighting, there's no visual contact, but it tells you a lot. So when we come and invest, we don't use our intuition. Of course, we use our intuition only after we bought it. So tell people that this will be a multi-bagger. But intuitively, if you had to evaluate companies, you will have to get into understanding a lot of history of how companies have behaved. in the past, right? How similar companies have gone through. And you know, I make it a very simple exercise. Every month I do this for about a few hours. Everything that has happened in the US is repeating here. You know, 10 years, 15 years back, we used to laugh that US માં તો 18 વર્ષના છોકરાઓ થાય ને તેમને ઘરથી બહાર કાઢી નાખે છે. આપણે ત્યાં છોકરા છોકરી રાહ જોઈએ છે 18 વર્ષની પાછળ. You know, so it's happening. You had this whole thing about people wanting to do multiple things, side hustle. You know what a side hustle is? Of course, Ahmedabad would know. What is a side hustle? Side hustle એટલે શું? એટલે આપણે જોબ કરતા હોય અને બીજો કોઈ બિઝનેસ બી સાથે ચાલતો હોય. અમદાવાદમાં તો એટલે એકાદની વાત નથી, અહીંયા તો અહીંયા ઘણા બધા બિઝનેસ હશે. બટ the whole thing was that in the US, people started focusing on side hustles a few years back when they realized that you know, the job scenario is difficult. And that's also happening here in IT, in consulting, and so many companies. In the US, if you understand the history, it's so simple. All listed companies in the US have gone through the same pattern of behavior that our companies are going. The size might be different given the disparity in currency and all that. But we keep on blaming SMEs. આપણે ત્યાં SME માં બહુ બબલ છે. બબલ આપણા માઇન્ડમાં છે, આપણા બિહેવિયરમાં છે, SMEમાં નથી. SMEs are in fact performing so well. Some of them are doing such great work which a lot of large companies also took years to achieve, right? Today SMEs have so much of high respectability that you can't imagine. So it's not about the companies being necessarily at fault when things don't go right, but it is our way of looking at them, anticipation and expectation out of that. So if you look at the US markets, that history will tell you so much that is happening here with a lag. So it's almost like advanced information on what's likely to happen here, right? So when the US started consuming so much of power, why did US start consuming so much power last year? Late 22 and early 23? Because generative AI came in. All the GPUs started consuming so much power, they had to start giving orders to Indian companies. And then we started realizing, and now every second report in India is about power consumption. After the power stocks have gone up. But if you knew what was happening in the US, so there's a big change that's happening in the US right now, if you read that part of the news. And why I'm saying the US, not that it's a great market, but it's way ahead than the other markets in the world in terms of evolution. So the mistakes they do right now, we'll also do in some time. The good stuff that they've done a few years back, we are doing right now. It's as simple as that. It's evolution. We have started wearing branded clothes, getting conscious. Men have started getting, getting to utilize grooming services. That we used to laugh at all this 10 years back. I remember somebody went to the US and saying, "Yeah, yaar, the spa and parlor man, manso ketla betha hoy chhe." They used to find it very funny. And you go now in India, they're like, you know, such commonplace kind of behavior. All, I'm saying behaviorally, see what's happening. The same thing is going to happen in some of this thing. Well, the biggest thing that I was telling you about what's happening in the US is the equation with China. China, તમને ખ્યાલ છે ને? It's struggling for the last so many years. India plus, બધું બહુ થઈ ગયું. You think the Chinese didn't know? But they didn't have a choice. Because the attitude towards China in the US has changed completely. And if that is any indication, and you look at all interviews that are coming out of the US, oh, India is a great story. Yesterday, John Chambers was talking, saying India and the US can change the world. Suddenly, apna itna status बढ़ गया है that we can change the world. हाँ, मतलब हम लोग का वो, you know, so why? Because that what is happening when we are not responsible. We are a beneficiary of the change that's happening with their relationship with China, right? हमने कुछ नहीं किया है, हम लोग फायदे में रहते हैं. कभी-कभी ऐसा हर 10 साल में कुछ फायदा होता है हमको. So that's the way it's happening, and if you read into that, you'll be able to see so much of with clarity what's likely to happen. Not on Monday, but I'm saying clarity. It'll give you some sort of this thing. અમદાવાદ છે, ભૂલી જાઉં છું ઘણી વાર. અમદાવાદમાં એ ડેફિનેશન જીતભાઈ ખ્યાલ છે ને કે હા મને કાંઈ લોંગ ટર્મ માટે આપો અઠવાડિયા માટે. So I am very scared when I say long term માં જોજો આવું થાય એટલે પેલો સોમવારથી જોતો હોય કે ક્યાં ગયા પેલા પ્રકાશભાઈ કે હજી મંગળવાર થઈ ગયું નથી થયું કશું. So that is what's happening. So when you understand a jungle in a very simple this thing, before you enter, what do? You understand what is this jungle, which area is it from, what kind of people, what kind of animals survive here, what's the survival rate, how do I navigate. So you look at broadly all the species that inhabit this jungle, right? Then you narrow down on a smaller universe set and say, okay, these are the specimens that I need to understand better, not all the species. And then you narrow down and say, okay, this is my selection, this is how if I understand this well, I'll be able to find out their behavior and get past. The same way, if we don't do the reverse, so we normally we build a portfolio, then we try to figure out what are the prospects of EV in India. We bought all EV companies, we bought all lithium-ion battery companies, and then we are asking what is the chance of lithium-ion becoming big. You know, most people ask this question after they've invested. So the pattern is invest and then investigate. Pela invest to karo, પછી વિચારશું જોશું સમજશું અને સારું લાગશે તો વધારશું, right? But you have to invest. Instead of that, if you actually went through the same way, please understand sectors, whichever sectors you are comfortable, and I keep saying start with a sector that you have some business association with or familiarity with, you know, your family is into it, or you worked in the past, you've done audits or whatever. And then you identify certain scripts out of that, okay, these are the 4 sectors that I want to, not because they are promising, please understand, it's not about the sectors are looking nice right now. That's why I studied. Doesn't matter. Every sector goes through cycles. Every animal goes through cycles of hibernation and aestivation, nocturnal and diurnal activity. Everything is a cycle. So if you understand a sector which you are familiar with, someday you will be able to ride that cycle. It may not be right now. It may be a year later, 2 years later. But we get carried away by the sector that's already done well. So today everybody is trying to figure out reality, renewables, now of course AI, whereas we don't have much of, as somebody said, companies in the listed space. So this is the flow that you need to do when you look at microcaps. Please understand the sectors first. Most of the information that's floating around today in social media, and there is a lot of microcap related input that is available. It is all bottom up. It is all about this company will certainly do more, and at times it's just a simple explanation that its PE is 16, it will become 25. There's no logic to it, but this thing. PE multiple is not within your control in terms of assessment also. The only thing that is, and I haven't got slides on this particular topic, I keep on saying, in the market, the only thing that is in your within all of our abilities is to try and gauge growth of the EPS. If we can figure that out, the PE will somewhere fall in place. We spend so much time on figuring out when the PE will expand and not too much on how and when EPS will expand. If you do that, it becomes much simpler. Okay, so this is a very, I took this picture because when I was going through some of the clip arts, I love this. You know which animal is this, right? Yeah, koala. Very cute animal. Very cute. We don't see it much. છે કાંકરિયામાં છે? નહીં હોય ને. એટલે આ તો આખો દી ઊંઘ જ છે. બીજું કંઈ કરે જ નહીં. But very nice, cute animal. You know, everybody who sees it has, oh, so cute, you have to take a picture. And they love taking pictures because you make them sit anywhere, they don't move. You know, so they'll pose. So, it's very simple, but the koala is one of the most vulnerable animals because it doesn't move. It's too lazy to move, keeps sleeping. That's why the population has gone down, they're endangered, and now they have to be protected. So what is cute is not necessarily smart, okay? So keep that in mind. So what is EV, what is AI, what is solar, what is renewable is cute, but that doesn't make it worth investing. There's some boring businesses like L&T which were exactly 12 months back at 2100. Ashish is sitting here, we had a discussion. I said, I don't see any reason why L&T cannot do well if they are changing their strategy to go for higher margins and all that. Today at 3700, I don't see why anybody would complain. L&T has done How much percentage wise कितना हो गया? 21 to 36, 37, roughly 75-80%. L&T, we're not talking about some small infra, Advait infra, this infra, that infra. We're talking about L&T. But does it sound exciting? L&T लेने का यार, आप तो माइक्रो कैप की बात कर रहे थे, अभी लार्ज कैप पे क्यों आ गए? पैसा जिधर बनता है वो लेने का है. माइक्रो कैप समझ आएगा तो ज़्यादा बनेगा, बट समझे बिना करेंगे तो दोनों में जाएगा. There is no question of that. So what is cute doesn't necessarily mean it is smart. And some of the micro caps can be deceptively smart, cute. So please avoid this trap. Okay. Some of them have great investor presentations. You know, when there's a company that is now, it actually came up with an IPO, got listed on 1st of September. I don't know what's the market cap. It should be about 6,000 crores. When they came, Roshan was here. Roshan, can I see Roshan? Roshan Vaishnav? What was the market cap when the IPO started? Bundada, you guys managed? 160. So now it's about 6,000 crores. We've not come to September 1st. People don't understand that this has happened because the company has undergone so much of business. I'm talking about a company which is Hyderabad based called Bundada Engineering. There's nothing cute about it when it came. You know, people had questions and that's why they didn't do much of broker meet and investor meets and all that. I remember one of the meets somebody asked, say, आपका business में तो बहुत risk बहुत है, vulnerability बहुत है, क्योंकि you fabricate solar panels, solar structures for the EPC players, or you do towers for telecom. Margin किधर है? Nobody is expanding. I can tell you, you can hear those questions and you could hear these questions in the IPO meetings. Most of these, you have debt, as if debt is a crime and we've never taken it. You know, you have debt, this, that. So company say, okay, yeah, but we are looking at growing. Our quality of work is very strong, this, that. And they kept on getting orders. Today, their order book, and disclosed publicly, of course, very clearly, which, you know, it explains why there's so much of expectation positively built around that company, and the stock reflects that. But just because it has done well, there was another company that came from, I think it was an SME from Kota. Please, by the way, these are not recommendations. Of course, Ahmedabad doesn't need recommendations, but I'm just, I forgot to put that slide. There's another company called KC Venture, KC something, KAYCEE something. Engineers, KC Infra or something. It came a few months after that IPO had done well. You know, if you look at the notes that were floating around that point in time, we're all saying it's the next Bundada in the making. You know, so it's like we keep on saying, which is the next HDFC bank in the making. Even HDFC is finding it difficult to be HDFC now. And here we are trying to find the next HDFC. And so this was like the next Bundada in the making. People were like very happy. Oh, wow, क्या करता है वो सब बाद में सोचने का. वो मैंने बताया ना. First selection, then you figure out what species is this. Infra, engineers, enough. Then, and some people also invested into it saying K se naam hai. K companies are doing very well. So, you know, K, I know for other reasons in India is known, but I'm saying the whole idea was KC engineers did very well, went up, everything. I think today it'll probably be available at close to offer price or lower. Because it's difficult for companies, all companies should grow the same way. But very few people actually used to, beyond what they read, go and investigate and figure out saying, what does the company do? And the company has a similar sounding business model, but not identical. Yeah? So you have to understand that what's cute is not necessarily smart. Now this is what we typically do. We go out, you know, you have invested into something, so okay, yaar, referential mane pelo ape je offer kare, lao tame bhi thoda mal lo. You know, so we say, chalo. So we all put ourselves together. You know why? Because it feels good if two people do something stupid. You don't feel so bad. And हम अकेले नहीं है. And that is the fundamental reason why IPOs which are priced highly also get subscribed. I mean oversubscribed. You know, because everybody feels that अरे इसमें तो जीतू भाई जैसे एक्सपीरियंस लोग भी वही भाव पे ले रहे हैं. So मेरा कहाँ गलती है? तो भरो. But one of the simple things that I have understood is, and this people like, I can see a lot of smart investors who have made great wealth in microcaps. Dhaval is here. I can see some of you here. You have always invested in companies alone. When Dhaval discovered a company called Gulshan Poly, I don't think anybody even knew what they did. Gulshan Poly का नाम सुना है आपने? But do you know what it does? नाम से तो नहीं समझ आता है ना, राइट? सो गुलशन है, पॉली है, मतलब वो काम क्या करता है और अभी क्या करता है बहुत फर्क हो गया. द पॉइंट आई वांट टू मेक इज दैट व्हेन इट वाज डिस्कवर्ड, when it was first heard about, people didn't actually pay much of interest because everybody was into doing things together. But there are certain companies where everybody wants to be together. So if you see a list of investors who have participated in a QIP or a preferential, you feel very happy. Oh, itna hai. I have also invested, by the way, in some issues in certain companies where I have not yet got my, the price of the stock is still lower than what they have offered to us. So this is what happens when you do what is called team investing. So this is not the way to do microcaps. Microcaps, you will have to be solitary. It is quite difficult. This is not a picnic. You know what I'm saying? Chalo, apne bada microcap mein invest kariye, साथे kariye. It doesn't work like that. Most of the times, you will be able to make money by finding conviction in businesses which a lot of people will not see the same salience. એકલા પડી જશો તમે. But પૈસા એમાં જ આવશે. This is how it works. Are you getting what I'm saying? So anything that's getting popular, and some people come and say, ah, ઘણી જગ્યાથી મેં બધું સારું સાંભળ્યું છે આના માટે, એટલે કરવાનું જ નહીં. આટલું બધું સારું હોય જ ના શકે in a promising microcap. Because that's the narrative, that's the story. So there is remarkably, this will happen in companies which have got listed, not had blockbuster listing, people have forgotten about them. Some of the best wealth creators have been companies that didn't do well post the listing. Because the business had nothing to do with the listing. Please understand. If they wanted money, and these are typically promoters who are not doing OFS, who are raising primary capital, putting it into the business, and they're not interested in the stock price. I mean, most of them will not be in Ahmedabad, but I'm just saying, usually the promoters who are very happy to do their business, grow their business, that's the way it should be, right? What's the fundamental element of survival for the promoter? It's a business. For us, it's a stock price. But for him, there's nothing that they need to do, worry about, as long as they're doing this. So it is going to be extremely challenging to differentiate between that. Yeah? We'll take questions specifically if you have on this thing. This is the other thing. Microcaps are extremely prone to extinction. I can give you a list of SME companies, some under 500 crore companies, which were around in 2018-19, but are not here now. I mean, not here in the sense, they are either thinly traded or in some GSM, ESM, FSM, some, this thing, band which almost makes it difficult to trade. And some of them have actually said that we can't run this business. They've sold out, they've merged with something else. Have you seen that list circulating in social media? Companies that have gone down 4 or 5 years? You'll not find that. Nobody wants to talk about losers, right? But for every company that stands today, there are at least, for every 10 companies, there will probably be 1 or 2 that have not been able to survive. And a lot of wealth gets destroyed when you invest in businesses which eventually goes. And this is why I'm saying this is micro caps. If you large cap ma karo, to our tension, our problem na male tamne. But micro caps very common. The mortality rate in the US, in small cap names, was as high as 27% at one point in time. So you can imagine, out of 10, 3 companies could go down. In India, we've not done any this thing because our number of companies is still growing. We are still a very young market in that sense. But as it goes, I'm sure there will be a lot of businesses where share, IPO came at 40 rupees, it did a high of 140, today it's available at 40 paisa. એટલે 40 થી છે ને પ્રેમ, but decimal change થાય રાખે છે. So, and these are companies which came with a lot of expectation built into it. So please, this thing. So what does somebody do when you want to navigate through a jungle you don't know or you're scared of or you have this? You keep skilling yourself. Not killing yourself, skilling. You keep skilling yourself over a period of time, and especially in long-term investing, you have a lot of time to, you invested and you waited, right? You let the company do well for 3 years. What do you do in those 3 years? Extremely difficult. For us to remain, in a company and not do anything for so many years is so difficult. But if you use that time to do some simple this thing, and one of them is stay at one spot, and I'll come to that in a bit in terms of how it helps. So microcaps, very common. If you are in the jungle which is full of this, you'll have enough reasons for forest fires. Forest fires are, by the way, acceptedly part of the ecosystem in a forest. If there were no forest fires, the forest wouldn't be healthy, right? So, Vijay bhai ka ek बहुत famous explanation है that bull markets create, paves the way for the next bear market, right? Because we keep on adding without knowing cute companies and all of that, and then when the market goes down, then the bear market starts. All those companies feature in that thing saying, "Sabke portfolio mein hai wo." So that's where it creates the foundation for the next bear market, and the bear market creates the foundation for the next bull market. So unfortunately, right now, which market are we in? નક્કી નથી હજી bull market છે ને યાર એવું ના કરો અમદાવાદમાં તો છે ને યાર bull market બાકી બજાર નહીં હોય. So bull market, we are in the bull market. You are actually going through the foundational work for the next bear market. Very scary. So what do you do? Saying, યાર આવા લોકોને ક્યાં બોલાવી લે છે આ બધું બીવડાવવાનું નહીં યાર સ્ટોક ના આપવો તો ચાલે બટ આવું બધું નહીં કહેવાનું. So the whole process is that there will be forest fires. It can happen because of even a simple thing like imagine the difference between the exit poll and the real counting. And the same count is now giving us so much confidence that we have gone to a new high. Bank Nifty, every Nifty we are on a new high. So this is the reality of this jungle, that you will have forest fires. So do you fear these fires? No. You learn how to quickly get away from these fires. If you fear, you will never enter the jungle. You will never be able to venture into any investment. You will never be able to buy into companies at all. So what do? Stop loss or exits, whatever you want to define it as. You will have to have ways to identify, factors to identify when you want to exit quickly. Right? So there is a saying in the markets, it says if you panic early enough. When something goes wrong, don't panic after everybody is panicked. Because there won't be anything left. If you had to panic, you should panic quickly. Or don't panic, stay put. But if you panic early. It's a very simple saying, but think about what it does convey. So at times, doing nothing is also a very useful decision. This is when you will go through a bear market. Not yet. Right now we can't be doing this, but it sounds so unfair not to buy something on Monday and sell on Tuesday or Monday evening. So he says, save yourself from the action bias. So what is an action bias? So we spoke about cognitive biases. Our brain is primed for action. Human brain is primed for action. It has always evolved to to decide on what is the right action, how quickly you should respond, all of that over the last thousands of years. But it's okay if you're in a war, not in the market. Here, just sitting at times, and I'd mentioned that in this thing also, you look at this, stay at one spot. Imagine we are talking about that as a skill. Stay at one spot. એક જગ્યાએ સ્થિર બેસી રહેવું એટલે કેટલું અઘરું હશે. હું ના ચાલે યાર. હું તો બહુ એક્ટિવ છું. સો ઇન્વેસ્ટમેન્ટ એના એરિયામાં એ કદાચ કામ ના બી લાગે. Then there is another bias which I want to bring this out. And it says, it's called the endowment effect. Endowment effect એટલે આપણું જે છે, આપણે જે ઓન કરી છે, એની બહુ વેલ્યુ મોટી હોય છે. તમે ઇવન રિંગ રોડ, આઉટર રિંગ રોડ, સુપર આઉટર રિંગ રોડ પર ઘર લીધું હોય ને, તો કે એટલી મજા આવે છે ને, પવન જે ચાલે છે ને, ઓહો, એટલે પાણી નથી, વીજળી બી નથી, બટ પવનની વાત ચાલશે આપણે. એટલે કોઈને કેવું જ લાગે સાહેબ ત્યાં શિફ્ટ થઈ ગયા, હા હા મજા, એટલે બહુ ખુલ્લું વાતાવરણ, આમ ખુલ્લું વાતાવરણ એટલે આઇસોલેટેડ છે, બટ યુ સ્ટાર્ટ ફાઇન્ડિંગ થિંગ્સ વિચ આર ગુડ અબાઉટ ઇટ. સો આપણું બાળક બધાને ગમે તેવું હોય. સો that is the thing that is called the endowment effect. People love what they own. Even professional traders have this tendency, and this is carved out through so many of this thing, that they don't sell their investment that they hold, even though if you ask them that if you had to buy today, will you buy these companies? They might not want to buy those companies afresh if they had to, but if they have it, પડ્યું છે તો રહેવા દઈએ ને, ક્યારે ચાલશે ખબર નહીં. So that's the reason why most demat accounts, you know what is the average holding number of scrips in India in the demat accounts? Any guess? Number of scrips held in demat accounts. Of course, we have crores of demat accounts, but I'm still talking about the average that CDSL and NSDL give out. They've done it some time back. It's scary. No, sir, 40 to 40 is very smart. So it's closer to about 70. You know, so that's the way we are wired. And then we are looking for multi-baggers in all those 70. So multi-baggers, multi-beggars, no transformation, ત્યાં આવી જાય છે. Then there is another this thing called the sunk cost fallacy. What does it mean? That in the past, if you have invested a lot of time, energy in any project, you will not want to give it. People have been living in the same house because they have renovated it recently. It is not servicing them properly, helping them, but હમણાં 3 વર્ષ પહેલાં તો આટલું બધું ઇન્ટિરિયરનો ખર્ચો કર્યો છે. પણ મજા આવે છે? ના, મજા નથી આવતી. આ બીજી જગ્યા છે, બટ અરે કેવી રીતે થાય? So people don't like doing it. Human beings don't like doing it, right? So that's the whole this thing. And the classic cognitive bias that is there is the asymmetrical preference between risk and reward. Reward is not as coveted as the aversion to loss. In simple language, we will do anything to avoid a loss, that pain of a loss, but we will not do much to enjoy the happiness or joy of gain. So that's where we keep making mistakes. People think in stories, not percentages. So whatever is selling is because of that and not necessarily because of certain growth rates or anything. Story. So we get very easily carried away by these stories also. Everybody knows that. Powerful feelings have a homogenizing impact on behavior. What it means is that when everybody is scared, you don't feel there's anything wrong. Right? So it's homogeneous behavior. So it's બધાને ટેન્શન થાય છે. એટલે કઈ હશે આમાં ટેન્શન વાળું. We are prone to viewing enjoyable activities as less risky. You know, so, and that's one of the reasons why Indians are usually very qualified. They'll keep on doing courses, go to colleges, universities, say, degree, pelli degree, navi degree. You know, so because it's a very nice activity. And it makes you feel you learned so much. But વપરાવાનું ક્યાં કશે નહીં. Right? So, I mean, we know, CA કર્યા પછી બી ક્યાં વપરાય છે એટલું, એટલે આટલી બધી ડિગ્રી કરીને શું થવાનું છે. But that's what happens. One of the most common areas of nuisance on the cognitive bias side is overconfidence. And what it does is over-precision, over-placement, and overestimation. I'll tell you what these words mean. Over-precision is, we are so, confident that, look at how analysts report earnings. You know, when you see Infosys, TCS earnings, it is like You know, EBITDA margin was expected to be 18.32. Atlu accurate. And again, disappointment, it has come at 18.12. So, results below expectation, suddenly. The expectations are so precise that EPS to atlu avu chahiye. So, that's the reason why price targets are always very precise numbers. Nobody gives out price targets saying this will touch 200 or 250, round number jane apne. No. This will, the new price target is 2857. Jabardast, you know. Pela promoter ne bhi nathi khabar atlu accurately, but pela analyst ne khabar chhe. So, and we also start behaving in accordance with that. If somebody is predicted this, and a khabar to asaj. Atlu accurate nagar kya thi kaade. And all of us know what Excel sheets can do, right? Excel sheet one, bahut maja aave. At least it's the biggest scam in the analyst world. You can use an Excel sheet and create, depending on who the client is, you can create a report which suits them. So, overplacement is, there's a huge belief everybody has that my skill is better than others. You know, you keep hearing, my mom used to tell me when I started investing, अरे तुमने खबर है पहला अपना relative एक आता बद्दा पैसा लोगों ना stock share बाजार में गया. You should not do this. એટલે આવું નહીં તમે તો નથી આવું કરતા તમે લોકો મેં કીધું ના આવું જ કરી છે અમે તો. So then she said, no, you should not do it because she did. So I said, nah, so you know the first classic response is, अरे हमने कहीं खबर नहीं पड़ती यार, हमने खबर पड़े. So this whole thing about overestimating your own, overplacing your own skill set is extremely this thing. That I will not make the same mistake that somebody else is making, you know. And I can bet that's one of the reasons why everybody in Bombay who I've seen in my career, who sits on a terminal, normally whom we call dealers. You know what a dealer is, right? F1, F2. Just soda padta hai. After 6 months, they start thinking they're technical analysts. You know, because they see the screen every day, 6 hours, and you ask them, Mitesh bhai, Ashish bhai, ti bada aave jara kassu nathi aavtu. I can tell you, I'm a breakout che. 6 months, huh? It's not 6 years, 6 months. And it is so easy for people to start this thing. So I have an associate who used to be with me now. He's an associate somewhere else, but he's still an associate analyst. The first time I went to a company visit, I remember it was in Dahej, chemical company. He came back, you know, with so much of positivity about that company. That was his first visit. And that company stock is still 30% down in 6 years. So I keep asking him every time, "Kem chale chhe Kanoria Chemical?" To ke sahib, na ema che avse, you know, long term bahut saru chhe. Bias is what? I went there. I figured out, how can the company not be good? You know what I'm saying? Because you made that visit, how can it not be good? So it's like if you go to a restaurant and somebody asks you, how is the food? You can't say, I was a fool, I didn't look for the right feedback and right ratings, and I went to a restaurant, it was not good. સારું છે જવા એકવાર જવા જેવું છે એટલે પેલો બી ગાંડો થાય. So when people come to Goa, they come with this list of all places they want to visit. And I can tell you the first 5 names in that list are all useless. You know why? Because they've got them from Instagram. So somebody who's gone to these places, Purple Martini, તે બધા નામ છે બધા બહુ મોટા, થલાસા, બહુ મોંઘા છે પાછા. એટલે તમે જાઓ ને 3000ના બજેટથી તો એટલે એટલીસ્ટ 5 ખર્ચો કરવો જ પડે તમારે. પણ હવે 5નો ખર્ચો થઈ ગયો, 3નું એસ્ટિમેટ હતું, 5માં બી મજા ના આવી. સો વોટ યુ ડુ? બીજાને કહો ના બહુ અમે જઈ આવ્યા. So I don't want to be the one who's the last fool. Somebody else also should go. Then I won't feel so bad. So most people recommend it because એને પહેલાં ફોટા પાડવા પડે કે મોંઘી જગ્યા છે એટલે Instagram. So that's what over placement does. Overestimation, of course, we know, we think everything is in control. હું તો એક્ઝેક્ટ એટલે બધું એક દિવસમાં ખાલી કરીને નીકળી જઈશ. એસએમઈમાં તમે જોશો ને તો એવું જ લાગશે કે આપણી સ્ક્રિપ્ટ જ નથી ટ્રેડ થતી, બધું આખું ગામ ટ્રેડ થાય છે. So if somebody is thinking of an exit from an SME company which doesn't have more than, let's say, 1,500 investors, and by the way, 1,500 investors in an SME listed company is quite a bit, huh? You'll be surprised. Imagine you have to rely on somebody to come and buy all these years, it is just 1,500 people who have thought it's good. And now suddenly, situation is kharab, and you want more people to come, you'll not. So, mark my words, the next round of butchering, which is likely will happen in certain stock. I'm not saying all SME stocks are bad, but in SME as a segment, you will not get exits very timely at the right levels. By the time you get the exit, your stock probably will be 40, 50, 60% down. And more often than not, that is the level where the promoter will come and buy, because he knows his business very well. But right now, it seems very difficult for us to figure that out. Anyways, so how do you manage avoiding overconfidence? Always be learning. What you are sitting and doing today, what you continuously keep on doing, that's all. And it's very strange that the more you learn, the more humble you will be, the more humility that you will have. Because you realize what you don't know. But unlike, as I said, 6 months, and people start thinking that they are very good technical analysts. So that's this thing. And then, of course, don't be in a hurry to do things, learn things. Overconfidence comes when you feel that you have to do this, everything within what Vijay bhai said, ki ekdam overnight sabko crorepati banne ka hai. That's where the mistakes happen, right? So that's what you need to realize. Okay, so I'll end this quickly. It says monkeys abound in the jungle, and you see a lot of activity, आवाज हो रहा है, एकदम घोंघाट हो रहा है, ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है, बहुत होता है ना. तो हमारे जंगल में भी ऐसा ही है, बहुत सब चर्चा होते रहता है, रोज IPO नया ऐसा वैसा रिपोर्ट सब. But what you need to look for is gorillas. Same forest will also have gorillas. You know what a gorilla is, right? So what's distinct about a gorilla? It's far bigger. It's right at the top of the food chain. It will survive. It has far more chances of survival. There are very few. So for every 200 monkeys, there will probably be one or maybe even more. I mean, more monkeys for the ratio. And if you can spot a company that eventually will be dominant in its segment, will not have competition to bring it down, and it will have, there's enough food in the jungle to feed on, which means there's enough of a market, but this company can grow faster than the other monkeys, you'll make it big. So, and Utpal Seth has done a lot of work around this. If you want to read up on the gorilla theory, he's explained this and how Titan was selected by Rakesh Bhai and all of that. So you look at, for example, 6 months back, we were talking about a company called Zomato, not in a very favorable way, ki bhai, paisa kya thi ban se. It's like, losing money and losses and all of that. And suddenly they started charging. I say, oh, अब पैसा ले जा, तो लेवा જોઈએ, तो पहला भी लेवा જોઈતા था. But now he's taking fees for what he's doing. Then that fees went up. Then it kept on going up. And then he had Blinkit come into this thing. And then you realize, oh, Blinkit is not just for people who need food in the middle of the night. Blinkit is for anybody who needs anything. It could be a shaving razor, it could be kothmir, it could be medicines, it could be anything. And Blinkit is so vastly acceptable, right? The number of people who have not used Zomato and the number of people that are using or can use Blinkit is superb. So what has changed? It's changed. It now gives it the right to be a very dominant player in the market. Of course, Swiggy is there and Swiggy Instamart is struggling, Zepto is there. But I'm saying if it grows, why would Zomato not be able to control a large market share at on a profitable level? And the price could go anywhere. But because the price has been at 40 or whatever, 43 and has come to 200, you feel, no, to pati gyo hai. But it could be very different. So you look for those gorillas, and the key is spot the gorillas in the making, not after they are fully grown. The mistake we do is that all these case studies will come after it has become big. So we need to figure that out. That's all you, and there are symptoms that are very clear. So there's a lovely book which explains the gorilla investing theory. It tells you what to look for, what are the signs that this company has the right to be a gorilla in a jungle of monkeys. Yeah. Okay. All of you heard of this story, right? The hare and tortoise. The new version, the collaborative version. घनी जगह आजकल discuss था तो ऐसे. You know that story? Hare and tortoise, new version. Anybody? you know, the hare was very proud, he rested, the tortoise kept on walking, he went ahead and he won. But the next story was the tortoise also got very complacent. The hare realized that, you know, he's made a mistake, he didn't do the mistake, but he couldn't navigate when it came to water, so he lost. The third story is that both of them put together and said, "Yaar, you can run faster on ground, I can take you through water. Why don't you, you know, let me sit on your back when you're running?" And so there was no race, but they reached faster. So that's a collaborative story. Now, in microcaps, it works. If you balance between a fast-moving microcap and a slow-moving microcap, you will not be so disappointed with the slow movement of the company that you've chosen. Right? So what you have to do is select companies which have a slightly different growth trajectory or pace. And trust me, that works brilliantly. So you invest in an IPO, if you like, and you invest in a company that's already IPO'd 7-8 years back. Because there's history, there's maturity in the business, there's clarity. And this company is uncertain, but you've invested some of it. It's not all into risk. So what it does is it tells you don't invest in all the same type of maturity levels in the companies that you invest when you invest in small caps. This is what I felt. The new version of the hare and tortoise always surprises the bears. They can't believe that it can happen. So you will not have bears bothering you if you get this strategy right. Just think about it. Okay, this is a very simple thing. You know what masquerading is? Masquerading એટલે false impression આપવાનું ને ખોટું બોલવાનું ને બધું આવી ગયું એમાં એટલે બધું ઘણું બધું આવી ગયું જે આપણે રેગ્યુલર કરતા હોય છે બટ ના કરવું જોઈએ. So masquerading is changing colors and changing your this thing. It's very common in the jungle because they have to do it to survive, and so is it in the markets. But that is called social media. So you will have fake P&Ls, you will have companies, people writing reports on companies saying this is the next this thing. This is a thread. आजकल एक नવો fashion चालू છે. Twitter thread, YouTube video. You know, પેલો આમ તમને એક જ વસ્તુ 5 વાર repeat કરીને લાંબો video કરશે અને you know, you actually don't hear about the company's business salience as much as you keep hearing the request to press the notification and the bell icon. I have gone through these videos and I have stopped doing that. I never look at these YouTube videos because I've got such a sheer waste of time. He's only telling you what the website has. So you would rather look at websites than hear somebody else who's understood or not understood the website. There's nothing new. There's no analysis, there's no interpretation. But the views that some of these guys get are crazy, right? Because people are lazy, they don't want to do enough of that. So they masquerade as advisors. Why would somebody want to put this out if it's such a great find, right? I get asked this question so often. Why do you go on television and tell people to buy this? And I do it because I don't have anything else to sell. I don't have an PMS, an AIF, a brokerage service, nothing. I do it because I feel retail investors need to understand businesses. And it's not to spoon feed them, but it's to understand business. But if I had vested interest in those companies, and my portfolio is just 9 companies, so I can talk about the rest of the 3,981 companies very easily. So that's the reality. But the market the social media is the biggest culprit for us to get this, to lose out on direction. Anyway, the last thing is, do not undermine microcaps when you don't find them useful. Today nobody bothers about small cap, microcaps because everybody is saying go to large caps, this is it. Do it. Invest, but don't undermine them. Don't stop understanding them. Don't stop investing energies into meeting them, talking to them. Because you really don't know when they will actually come to your rescue. So this is the rule. You actually have cycles. You are part of that cycle as much as the business is. Okay, so this is very clearly things can go wrong when you're in the jungle. You never know where the danger lurks, and things can go terribly wrong. And most of the times, the maximum danger is from other humans, not the animals. So they are called operators in our markets, right? So please be very wary of this thing. We are more worried about animals, but you don't have to be worried about animals. The danger is from Homo sapiens, not the other species. So be careful of that. I cannot go back without telling you that you should avail the services of a trained and certified chartered accountant who, as a guide, and that is highly advisable. So this is the and to be honest, there's a huge opportunity for people, for all of us as professionals to be in this business. So think about it as a very strong business franchise opportunity, because investors will need this, right? Whichever form of input you are comfortable providing, you could assess that. We spend very little, forget the money, but we spend very little time even to identify advisors. How do you look for advisors? You ask somebody saying, "Tame pelo portfolio kya koni jode karo cho?" So he'll give you some name and say, "Okay, number aapjo na." That's it. But other things we do so much of DD on, ના પેલું કેમ છે આ ક્યાં છે આને કયું ઘર બનાવ્યું છે આના ફોટા મોકલજો આ છે તે છે બટ વેન ઇટ કમ્સ ટુ ઇન્વેસ્ટિંગ ડન you know why? Because the investor you asked is doing very well. There could be different reasons. His cognitive biases can be very different. It's got nothing to do with the advisor necessarily. But that's the way we do. So if you spend more time and energy into figuring out this thing, so just keep navigating and see you on the other side. Thank you. So very very good valid question. Microcaps में सबसे जल्दी damage impact होता है. I think if you and दूसरा challenge with microcaps is some of them in the SME side at least, not otherwise, they don't disclose earnings at a frequency beyond 6 months, right? And they don't have con calls and transcripts and all that. But in regular companies, if you go back to what the management has been talking about, its business for 2-3 years. So like when I start analyzing a company, I don't look at I don't hear the transcript call which is last quarter. I go back at least 2-3 years. कि उसने 2 साल पहले बोला था वो हुआ है कि नहीं, अगर वो नहीं हुआ है तो क्यों नहीं हुआ है, उसका explanation क्या है, what is the stand. You have to understand the management as a person, as people, not so much of business metrics and all that, because वो तो dynamic है, वो तो change होगा ही होगा. But how does a person respond in that changing environment? That will give you the first indication of if things are going bad or right. So businesses are very good, बहुत अच्छे हैं, पर deliver नहीं करते हैं. Segment बहुत अच्छा है, margin अच्छा है, लेकिन promoter को fire ही नहीं है. So when people ask questions on calls saying, would you like to expand? Are your revenues likely to go up? And if he says, no, we are happy where we are, वो कुछ नहीं होगा. So that's, but we'll take it on offline.
Please be seated as we would be immediately starting with the next session. Before lunch, sir, please.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much, sir, for the wonderful session. And you very rightly said that psychology is something which is very important. And it's a beautiful quote that has been said sometime, that the best of the investors have an edge in psychology over the finance. And that is how the world actually works. And friends, when the questions are being asked, especially by our learned friends, those who are having great experience, yes, they all help us to learn so many things. We need to learn from the experiences of the others, and that's how Jitubai raised a very valid question. Thank you very much, sir. And we'll immediately be starting with the next session. Please bear with us. Thank you.